So I wanted to speak on the Panasonic GH7 for like 90 seconds. This video is about my conundrum with YouTube and filmmaking. And can you do both well? You know, I have to admit, I have made probably 9 videos in the last 3 or 4 days about the Panasonic GH7 and the S9. You know, can you serve both? You know, can you be everything that you're supposed to be for both? And is YouTube filmmaking? It's all about the story, you know. That's the most important thing. It's actually the only thing. And does filmmaking have anything to do with YouTube? And if you're a filmmaker, should you even be on YouTube, you know? I have a conundrum with that often because I feel like both are to be respected. I think the perfect camera, obviously it's a cliche, is the camera that you have, but it's really true. Because, you know, if you have any camera that was made in the last 10 years, I mean, basically, if you have any camera where you can have the opportunity to choose your ISO, to choose your white balance, to, you know, compose your shots, you know, that has whatever the dynamic range is, you're just shooting in that style, you know, just work it out, use your skills, use your aesthetic, you know, figure out what's your style. You know, I think whatever camera you have, that's going to be the perfect camera. Oh, so I can finally see your face, but there's no contrast. It's just flat. Like, you know, you get in the shade, big deal, but you didn't even think about where the sun was or where the light is, or, you know, working with shadows and light and, you know, how it could look different on one side of your face and you could create some kind of depth and maybe something in the foreground or in the background, but this is some lazy shit. Like some bullshit. Like, this is not YouTube, man. This is like the lowest level. Like, anybody could do what you just did. You didn't even think about it. Who gives a fuck about what you're talking about or what your story is or what the subject? Who cares? We care about what it looks like. You know, this is a fucking camera channel. Oh, it's not a camera channel? What kind of channel is it? See, that's the whole point. You don't even know what kind of channel it is. You don't even know what your subject matter. You don't even know what, you can't even define what this is. You think when people come here, they got to count on knowing what it is. Like, they're coming here for a reason, you know? If you don't know, how they going to know? Yeah, you know what? You're lazy. You're not taking it seriously. You're being Excuse me? You're a professional? You ain't professional at this. You suck. You know, like, if I do anything, I like to give 100%. So I just wanted to say that's what this video is about. Recently, I got up in the morning and I looked at my phone and I was looking at YouTube and I saw this incredible documentary about this kid, and it was his journey to running a marathon. And it was really a beautiful documentary, really well done, really compelling, a great story. He overcame some incredible odds. And he, you know, just showed you this journey to getting to run a marathon. And then I looked at his page afterwards and I thought he would have, like, you know, 50 trillion followers and 1 million views and stuff. And it was a tiny little channel. It was smaller than my channel. And I was like, wow, you know why? Because this dude is out there doing the work, like doing real work. And it just made me actually feel better about my own journey. Because, you know, sometimes I feel guilty because I don't put the amount of effort into these YouTube videos that I feel like would be more respectful, you know what I mean, of the people who are kind enough to come to my channel. But I literally don't have enough time because why? I'm making real movies, you know. I've done 2 feature films. And by the way, the first feature film, the perfect camera, was my phone because it's all I had. And so I made a feature and it became an award-winning film. And I say that in a lot of my videos because I want to kind of, you know, punch that point home that, you know, you could just have a phone and make a good project, you know. And then I just shot the last project that I did on my Panasonic S5. And, you know, now it's opening at a big festival. So that shows you that Panasonic S5 is plenty. I guess what I'm asking is, what is your goal? You know, what do you want to accomplish with your camera? Like, do you just want the best camera? You know, are you on the incessant search for the perfect camera like Casey from Camera Conspiracies? Or do you have actual goals of art, you know, creating art with your camera? You know, do you want to make a movie? Do you want to do a documentary? Do you want to do weddings? You know, do you want to do corporate work? Like, what is your goal? You know, because if you have a specific goal, that would go a long way in choosing the right camera for you. come on, man. Why are you here? Why are you on YouTube? No, 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 no. I don't care about it. Why are you here? Why are you making YouTube videos if you're making movies? Why are you making YouTube videos? For what? Oh, you're making a documentary? What? You're not answering my question. Why are you making YouTube videos? You're just trying to make some money. You're just like everybody else. You're no different. You're talking about shit that you don't care about. You're talking about shit that you think other people care about, but you don't care about because you're trying to be trendy and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? You ain't got it because you ain't this, so it doesn't come through as like genuine. You know, it comes through as complete bullshit. Yeah, I know you're not bullshit. But what I'm saying is you can't do that here. Yo, be smart. Get the fuck off this platform. Go make your movies, go do your thing, go live your life, you know, go be an activist and all that shit. Go talk about, you know, your adoption and racism and privilege and homophobia and, you know, suicide awareness and all, whatever the fuck you're talking about, you know. People are here to learn about 16mm lenses and ISO and white balance and, you know, dynamic range and vector scopes and all the bullshit. Like, get the fuck, who are you? What do you, like, you don't even know what you're doing. You are not Gerald Undone, okay? The entire video is shot on a 28mm lens because I was trying to make that point too, because that's kind of what the video started as. Like, you could use a 28mm lens to do an entire project. Like, you don't need any other focal length. 28mm covers everything. You know you make people feel uncomfortable. You know that? You're too intense. No, you're too intense. People don't want to talk about this stuff. They don't want to talk about war. Nobody, they want to come here and have fun, you know? You know Peter Fairley. You know him, right? Yeah. Uh-huh. He was your friend, right? Well, not really. He was Chris's friend, right? Yeah, well, that's what people want to see. People want to see Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber. That's it. They don't want to see your shit. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to have to talk about it. You make people feel like, why don't you smile more? Huh? Why don't you smile occasionally? Like, why are you all so serious all the time, you know? Why don't you change the title of your thing? This is the end for me. What kind of fucking title is that? You know, maybe you should call it Better Days Ahead. Can't you do something like that? Like, why you gotta make people feel uncomfortable? Why you gotta disrupt people? Like, people are trying to be happy. People are trying to forget about these things that are happening around them. They don't care about what's happening to somebody else. Like, if it's not happening here, who cares? I can't do anything about it. I don't want to hear about this shit. I can't go to Gaza. Am I in Gaza? No. Okay. Am I at the southern border? No. Am I black? No. Why should I care? Why am I Asian? Am I gay? Why should I care about any of that shit? Why you got to talk about that? Who the fuck are you? Huh? What made you the fucking gatekeeper of caring? Like, what the, come on, man, shut the fuck up and get off this platform. Nah, people are not comfortable with you, I'm telling you. So I tried to cover a lot of stuff, you know, but then as I was working on the video, I thought, am I really serving this work? Like, why am I doing this? Like, there are too many cameras that are good. Perhaps the best thing about the Panasonic S5 is that you can get it like new in mint condition for like $800 in a bunch of places. MPB, Adorama, you know, sometimes I see it for $800, $850 at B&H. You could certainly get it at eBay, like $800. I mean, the S9 is like $1,300. That's almost twice the amount for a camera that I personally think is better. Because, you know, like the S9's got a really restrictive amount of time that you can shoot video. I mean, the S5, you're restricted to 30 minutes if you're shooting in 4K. But, you know, how often do you shoot more than 30 minutes? And also, if you are shooting more than 30 minutes, shoot in 1080. It looks beautiful, you know? Especially if you're using vintage lenses or anamorphic lenses, what difference does it make, you know? And putting all kinds of filters, like I use a Cine Bloom filter. I'm always shooting with ND filters, like, you know, does it really matter? You know, I'm just hoping to expose properly, and it's all about the colors and, you know, the character of the camera and the lenses combined. And I think the S5 can maximize any lens that you use. I have to admit, the GH7 is kind of interesting to me, but not for the reasons that you think. I think that, you know, the S9 and the GH7 have something in common. It's this magical thing that they have in common that nobody's talking about, that I personally think is the most important thing that you could possibly have in a camera. But, you know, like bar none, like way beyond any codecs or stabilization or autofocus or anything like this component. You know, this is the magic. This is the thing that will set you free when it comes to cameras. And sadly, nobody's talking about it. All right, yo, I got no more time for you, okay? I'm done. Like, that's it, you know. I just gave you my honest opinion. Hey, I'm always going to tell you what I think, okay? That's what I think. You suck at this, yeah. No, I'm not saying that. I mean, you're a good filmmaker, you know, you're a great storyteller, you're a good theater artist, but you suck at YouTube. Yeah, you're unprofessional, you're disrespectful to the viewers, you have no idea what your channel's about, you got no plan. You don't even plan these things. Nobody cares that you have no time because you're making real actual movies. Like, nobody cares about that shit. You know, like, you need to spend that kind of time on YouTube videos. It's not an excuse, yo. Yo. This morning, I saw a beautiful short film. And it was a story about this kid. He was probably 22 years old, something like that. He was working in a shop with this woman. He was obviously in love with this girl. She was about the same age. And she would flirt with him all the time, but she also always made it clear that she had a boyfriend. And she would talk about that boyfriend all the time. And this kid, you know, he was like, oh, yeah, okay. You know, you could tell it like ripped his soul out of his chest every time she talked about it. But they had this thing going on back and forth. And the thing about this kid is, even though he seemed very kind of confident in certain ways, he was a young actor. He had talked about just doing a self-tape audition. He was waiting to hear back about this role. But he also had ears that were a little bit bigger than most people's ears, you know. And you could tell he was very insecure about them. Okay. Yeah, you're good at that. Okay. Listen, this is YouTube, which is like TikTok and Instagram and, you know, all the other social media. Nobody, you know, this is like 22-second land. You know what I mean? Like, everything's got to be like cut up into little bits and pieces of 7 seconds or maybe 22 seconds. And so anyway, the story goes on where you see him at home and he gets a phone call and he says, hey, what happened? And you're thinking that he's hearing back about the self-tape. And, you know, he listens to the person on the other end of the call and he goes, oh, well, what does that mean? And he gets some kind of information and then he says, so what's the prognosis? And so he finds out that he has cancer. And so he's sitting at home and, you know, they do a couple of the typical shots. He's in the shower, you know, thinking about his cancer, and he looks down while he's washing because it turns out he has testicular cancer. And so next day, a friend of his calls and goes, listen, I got bad news. I need to talk to somebody. Can I come by? And the guy's like, okay, you know, not telling this kid what he's going through himself. But anyway, this kid shows up at his apartment the next day and they're standing across each other and he's like, so, you know, what's the news? And he goes, well, no, you tell me your news first. Because the guy who found out he had cancer, he goes, well, I have some news too. So they're going back and forth like, what's your news? No, what's your news? No, really, you know, go ahead. Your work is just not cut out for this shit, man. Why are you trying to even be involved with this? Oh, it's good practice. Okay, yeah. Oh, you enjoy it. Oh, now you enjoy it. Okay, who gives a fuck about your enjoyment? Like, who cares what you enjoy or what you like to do? That's not what this is about. This is pressure filled. This is like some real shit. You have some responsibility to people. And so the kid with the big ears, his friend goes first. And he's standing leaning against the counter in this guy's kitchen and he says, my news is that I got the audition. Like, I got the job because his friend was also an actor. And he goes on to tell him that he just got this great job, HBO series, 6 seasons, playing the son of Meryl Streep. And he's obviously, this is like the biggest moment in his life. He's so excited. And his friend, his best friend, who just found out that he had cancer, is being very supportive. And he's like, oh my God, that's so great. Congratulations, you know. And so they're talking, and then there's this thing, you know, in the air between them that, you know, only one of them knows about it and we know about, but the other character, his friend, he doesn't know about this thing. And they go on a little bit, and the friend is getting all these phone calls, people congratulating him, and he says, I got to take this, and he's talking to his agent and all this stuff. And finally, the guy goes, well, wait a minute, what's your news? And so the kid tells him, well, I found out I have cancer. And his friend is like, well, what kind? And he goes, testicular. And there's like this silence, it just kind of pops the air out of the balloon, of course. And it's what the kid with the big ears didn't want. And the other kid is just like, obviously is so conflicted about this moment right now. And they talk about it for a little bit. And finally what happens is the kid with the cancer gets up and goes, you know what, you got to leave. Like, why do I have to leave? He goes, because you're making me feel like shit. Because he's taking all these phone calls and he's celebrating, and it's nothing personal, but he just needs his friend to get out of his space. It's just making him feel horrible. And his friend leaves, and he's sitting there and he's thinking, and all of a sudden you see him, he just gets up and he bursts out of his apartment. You got to tell the truth. You got to know what you're doing. Every video you make has got to look like a motherfucking commercial. Yeah, you can't just come here on and enjoy it. Well, that's true. Yeah, you could do whatever you want. But I'm just saying, if you want to reap the benefits from it, yeah. All right, I'll say it. If you want to make money at it, if you don't approach it in that way, you don't deserve it. Nobody's saying you can't be here. I'm just saying nobody cares, and I'm just saying you're never going to make a penny because you don't deserve it. Yeah. Good luck with that. I think people are much more apt to come to YouTube than they are to the theater or to pay $3.99 at Netflix or Tubi TV or HBO or whatever cute little streaming service you're on. Like, that last video you did, you had like 1,200 views, right? How many of those people you think are going to watch your movie? How many? 1,200 people. How many people you think are going to show up at the Manhattan Film Festival on Wednesday night, June 19th at 9 o'clock to watch a world premiere of your film that you shot all by yourself with the Panasonic S5 and 2 vintage lenses? Nobody else there, no crew, no lighting people, no sound people, no nothing. You did everything. Who you think is going to show up? He's sitting there and he's thinking, and all of a sudden you see him, he just gets up and he bursts out of his apartment and he goes to the shop where he wasn't working that day, but the girl is working that day, and he bursts in and he says, I'm in love with you. And the girl just kind of looks at him and goes, I've always been in love with you, and I know you're living with your boyfriend, but I just wanted to tell you that, and I love you. And the girl looks at him and she doesn't say a word. And it's just silence, and she kind of smirks a little bit, but she looks away. She's a little embarrassed, but kind of happy about this moment, but, it's weird. And they say nothing to one another. It's just a moment of uneasy silence. And the boy goes, but, I know, obviously my ears are too big for you. And, because he doesn't know what to say at this point. He's just uncomfortable. And she looks at him after he says that, and she goes, oh, I've always loved your big ears. And the short film ends. More people come to YouTube than watch Francis Ford Coppola's films. That's what I'm saying. Nobody cares. Yo, I don't want to talk about it anymore, okay? I'm like them. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to talk about it. It's got nothing to do with me. So, get the GH7. Get the S9. Get whatever is your fancy, whatever you want to spend money on. It's your hard-earned money. Get whatever makes you feel good, what inspires you, because the camera that inspires you, that makes you feel good, is the camera that has the magic, is the best camera by far, Because what happens to a lot of people is they lust after these cameras and they finally get a great camera and they spend thousands of dollars on cameras and lenses and then they do nothing. And what happens is that they get bored. And the camera is still the same camera. It's still amazing. It's still a GH6 or a GH7. It's still an S5 Mark IIX. I mean, an S5 2X. It's still, it's still a Canon R5C, whatever. It's still what it is. but now you own it. And so you're not lusting after it anymore. And so it doesn't mean anything to you anymore. And then I guess what happens is you find out whether or not you're really an artist. That's when you really find out, because if you don't do anything with it, what are you? You know? Not to say that you're anything bad. I'm not criticizing you, but I'm saying you're probably not an artist if you're not taking this piece of equipment and understanding and appreciating the incredible opportunity that is in your hands, that you have this piece of equipment. And by the way, you just need the camera, something for sound, and a lens. And that's it, and a tripod. You don't need anything else to take advantage of that opportunity that I'm talking about. Now, you're going to acquire more stuff, and if you're on a set, and if you become a professional DP working with a crew, then yeah, you're probably going to be required to learn more stuff and to probably have more stuff, although you probably won't even have to own it because it's just going to be on set. But if you're an independent filmmaker and you create an independent film company, then you're probably going to have to get better tripods and gimbals and lights and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is, if you are, I would say, the majority of people watching these videos, and you're lusting after the best camera, and you want the Sony A7S3 or the FX3 or the FX30 or whatever you want, and you get it, if you don't start making crazy amounts of art, what are you doing? What exactly did you want from the camera? What is it about the camera that was so magical to you that now you have it and it's sitting there doing nothing, But if you're somebody who could only afford a Sony A6000 or a Canon, M50 or something like that, and you're just turning out all kinds of art, you're making videos, you're making movies, you can make a feature film. I made a feature film with my phone. My phone. Why? Because I had to tell this story. I had a play that was supposed to open at the Signature Theater in New York City on June 12th of 2020, and COVID shut it down. And this was the most important thing in my life at that time. I felt like if I didn't get to share this story, I was going to die. And so what did I do? I took my phone. I had an LG V40 phone, which has great video capabilities. And I decided to make a movie. And I made a feature-length film. I bought a couple of cheap lights, I bought a lavalier mic for $40, a Purple Panda. I used my phone, my LG V20 for audio because it does 24-bit, 96 kilohertz audio. And I made a feature film based on the story that play was. And I actually wrote a proper screenplay because I tried shooting off of my theatrical script and I hated everything that I did. Everything. I shot for months. I hated everything. And then I realized I got to let the play go. And I have to write a screenplay, and I have to honor this space that I'm in now, this filmmaking space. I have to do it the right way. And so I wrote a proper screenplay. The story changed a lot. But I made a movie, and it became an award-winning film. Pretty crazy. So that's it. Get the camera that resonates with you. Get the camera that means something to you. And be the best artist that you can possibly be. I will tell you this as I leave you, okay? Think about it. Think about what you want to do. Think about what people want. Think about how you can really be a part of society, okay? Instead of being this outsider that you are. And, just go from there. Oh, you know what? Change your titles and smile every once in a while. Can't hurt.